And I'll retweet that tweet.
All right. Meanwhile, people are listening to us talking to ourselves like we're gonna go live in a second. Let's see. We're probably live now. Yeah, I can hear myself.
Okay, hang on. I gotta go find that link. Why isn't my stuff showing up on my subscriptions? I'm subscribed to you. I should be subscribed to you.
Everyone should subscribe to both.
Hell yeah. Well, I don't do enough. I keep getting yelled at by everybody. It's like, nerd, when's your next video? And I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do this. I am very lazy. I have to get back into it. If I want to do more work and I want to go and talk stuff, well, you can't always stick to Twitter because it's a crazy place. So definitely, I have to get back into it.
What kind of videos do you do on your channel?
I usually do reviews on comics. I draw them. That's what I usually do. But a lot of people have been really enjoying it as well. Well, I enjoy this. I've been starting Let's Play with a bunch of people, and I found this terrible game. It is made by the wokest of woke, and we call it Tumblr Simulator. Because it's that hellscape, and I've dragged a bunch of CGers on, and we just watch this hell unfold. It's called Read Only Memories. Pixel art is beautiful. I picked it up because I was like, oh, cool. It's like a visual novel point and click, kind of like those 80s anime ones that were on the PC that we never got in the States. Oh, I want it, and I bought it. Nobody ever shuts up. Everybody's triggered about something.
Jeez.
And you're always making microaggressions. And I swear we were like voicing the characters. We gave up because the characters would take like 6 dialogue boxes to just say, I don't know the answer. Because they have to be like, I have to put in all the words in here. I'm like, who wrote this shit? It's awful. This is really bad. Like this. Oh my gosh, and I think Zoe Quinn voiced a character, so it's immediately a red flag. I turned off. Oh my gosh.
Games like that, especially visual novels, suffer probably from length problems, and you got to have some editing going on. Oh, go
on. There are some that are really good. I mean, I play a lot of visual novels. And I play a ton. I like to look through them. Maybe I'll do reviews on visual novels. Even the dirty ones. Even the dirty ones can have the most amazing gameplay I've ever seen. Like Kamidori Alchemy Meister. It's porn, but it's really good gameplay. Like, I was like, dude. And then they're like, what are you doing? Like somebody came into like a roommate walked into it, and I had to do something really like it was the lewdest scene ever. She's like, what the heck are you doing? I'm like, I turned around desperately, and I'm like, look, if I don't bang her, I don't get the level up scroll. It's not like I want to. I'm already in a relationship with Elf MILF. But yeah, so some of the the gameplay can be really good. And then other times terrible, of course, because, it's some of them are just dirty lewd for the sake of dirty lewd. But there's a really good, the Fate series. That writing is brilliant. It is. I own the Melty Blood and the Fate Stay Night, and I gotta go and finish those. But the dialogue, and it's been translated. Like there's I know it was like somebody called like Mirror Moon. And Mirror Moon did the whole entire English translation. It's a fan translation. And the way they did it was so well done that I forgot I was reading stuff. I was like, damn, this is really good with the artwork and everything. And I think that the best thing about visual novels is ones that are kind of, choose your own adventures. I like it when there's branching trees and so forth. And when the dialogue is that good, there's been plenty of effort. No wonder that series has like 700 spin-offs and so forth. Like, it shows effort.
Is it on Steam?
I think so. Hang on, let me go and check that. I know the When They Cry series is on Steam, but I don't like that series because dialogue's pretty good. but the artwork is very it was when they were starting out, so it's not that great, and there is no branching past. You're not in control. It's just mostly just reading a book, and I'm like, that's great, but I would rather be reading the book instead, so I could just flip through as much as I want and just read as fast as I can. But you got to go at that pace. So yeah.
There's a game called, a famous one, Dream Daddy, I think. That.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever play that one?
No, it just didn't appeal to me.
Yeah, it doesn't appeal to me either. Although I've heard it was funny. I don't know for sure, but I was trying to think, like, if I'm gonna play like the perfect example of, I don't know if it's like raunchy or anything. I'm just curious about the format of a visual novel because I was trying to make one a couple of years ago with some programmer buddies, and I was looking for a good example for like a smartphone. Let's say you hold it landscape mode, and then you can advance the story, do like quests and stuff like that.
Okay.
But there was a ton of writing, and I needed some good examples of how to make the game run, and the project fell through, but I still have that script. I wish I could do something about it.
You can.
I can, yeah. There'll come a time, I'm sure, between, I don't know what's going to happen in the next year work-wise, but it's always something that I'm like, if I had a couple of programmer buddies that I trusted, then we can make it happen.
No, absolutely. I just looked it up online. The Fate visual novel is not on there, but they're the Fate Exilio. Like, this series spun a ton of other series and other games in the franchise, and looks like an RPG. There's like an RPG one. There's a hack and slash. There's like I think there's like a Street Fighter-esque one. Yeah, that game just like, because it's filled with such big world building. Like,
Melty Blood, you said, right?
Melty Blood is one of them. That's their first original one, but the Fate series is their main big one. I don't think Melty Blood is in here. Wait! Oh my gosh! Melty Blood, let's see here. I think it's Melty Blood, but it is their fighter game version. Okay. They made a fighter game, but it's really good from what I heard. So
yeah, it was even at EVO, if I remember. That's the fighting game tournament here in the States.
Oh, yeah.
A couple years ago. I don't remember, but I remember it had some high level mechanics or something that some people really enjoyed.
Oh yeah, it's very. And this was made by a very small group, like, because that's actually a really cool thing about Japan and so forth is that, yeah, they have the big wig companies, but the little indie guys can make some of the most amazing things, and it just blows up into amazing sagas. But yeah, they Melty Blood is a series about vampires, and it is really well done, and the artwork is superb, and the writing, it's where they started. That's Melty Blood is their first story, and then they went to the Fate series. So
I will look it up.
Yeah. I think I had the visual novel somewhere because I saw everybody playing the Street Fighter game. Sorry, that's what I call fighting games. But yeah. They were playing it, and then I think I was in college, and a friend of mine gave me a USB port with the original Fate visual novel and the Melty Blood visual novel, and I've fallen in love with it. It is brilliant.
What genre is it? Horror?
It's more of an adventure action series. Both of them are. They're very, I guess, kind of shonen-esque. I think Melty is much darker in a sense, but they're both pretty dark. Like, it's Fate is about a tournament that happens, I think, like every 20 years. Do you ever play the Persona series?
Yes. I was actually going to ask about that.
Yeah. We're going to have fun with that. Yeah, it's kind of like that because every person that that's in the Tournament of the Fates, I'm doing a really rough, awful summary, but they gain a hero. Kind of like in Persona 5, how every one of the characters, their personas were all folk heroes. Yeah, these guys get iconic heroes like Robin Hood or Excalibur, or like King Arthur or Hercules. And they summon them, and whoever is the last one standing gets the Holy Grail.
For 20 years.
And that's kind of the a very rough summary
Huh.
of
What
what
does the Holy
happened.
Grail
So
do?
it's like this guy that gets thrown into the tournament and just goes on from there. It's really good though.
Huh. I have written it down. I'll need to look it up. Well, one of the questions that I wanted to ask is, well, because we both seem to have a mutual love for.
My headphones broke or something.
Let me see if I can.
can't hear anything.
Sorry, guys, got technical difficulties. It sounds like.
Hang on, I'm just gonna go and unplug them.
Sure. Well, whoever's in chat, this is the perfect time.
No, it's fixed. It's fine. I just took out the headphones.
Pop them back in.
Pop them back in?
It worked?
No, I unplugged them, so now I'm listening to you on my computer.
Okay. Well, I don't notice any, what do you call it? When, like, an echo or anything, so we're...
Yeah. Okay, cool.
All right, cool. One of the things I was going to ask about is our mutual appreciation for anime, Japanese culture, the kind of products that come out of there. And, well, it depends on which dialogue path we want to choose, I guess. But, like, how it relates to indie comics, I think, is fascinating. Let's see.
Branching trees. No,
I know. It's hard to decide. Well, specifically, man. All right. Let's start here then. We both, I think, are involved with a lot of people who are interested in indie comics, and that's how I think that I became aware of you on Twitter, let's say. But I think I've noticed you on the old streams back, like maybe even a year ago or longer than that.
Yeah, I was there from stage 1, and I am also known as the founder.
The founder of
DG. Like, that's what a lot of people like to say.
Oh, is that so? How did that come about?
Just, you know, I was there from day 1 with when Captain Cummings, Frugal, before Ethan was even in there. We all would just gather around. It was a very large rally. Douglas Ernst and so forth, Captain Frugal and Captain Cummings were some of the biggest people there, and they were the ones that were stating all of it. It was like, what, 2016 was when really stuff started getting bad. And, like, you know, like, comics were just lousy as anything. And so we all got motivated to do our own reviews and so forth. And because DNC, though, was never really CG. He's appreciated the support. He respects us and he loves the work we do, but he's just kind of his own. He's like the great hero who wanders the forests. I don't know how to represent it, but also I've met him. He is a really nice guy.
Huh. Well, one of the questions, because as I got involved with everybody about, let's say, around the new year, I had been a listener for quite a long time, but I have never been able to really nail down what, like, if I was to draw a Venn diagram of who knows who and who dislikes who and who gets along with who, it just seems like a lot of different bubbles with a few overlaps. I still don't know how to navigate it. I just try to talk to everybody who's polite to me, and that's as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't have any need for labels or anything like that. I just, you know, nice people is all I care about. Yeah. So when you got involved with everybody, geez. So I guess it sounds like the election was what set everybody off around that time.
Yeah. Let's see here. As I like to joke, the downfall of comics happened in 2007. But in you all get that if you know Spider-Man. But really, I guess that the real downfall happened in the mid 90s when they were all like when greed kind of took over. A lot of greed started going through we can make more money by flooding the market. You know, they were doing stupid shit, but they still do it today. And yeah, 2016 was when it really hit. I think it was starting before then, but it was far bolder because what was it? Maybe around 2003 or 2011, something like that, somebody got into power and started the whole and started more of this of just hiring their friends.
Yeah.
That's where, and a lot of the people that were chosen to write some stuff and work in the animation department were people that were failed script writers and stuff. Because I get it, you want to help out your friends, but at the same time, it is very heavy nepotism, and it caused a lot of issues. And then it became more of who you know. They really did publicize it as a more glamorous lifestyle and job, even though it was notoriously known in the 90s. If you ever did read comics and you watched the interviews with the people that worked in the 90s, though they were the rock stars, they were treated like shit. They were editorial always kept them under a very heavy leash. So they said, "Screw you, we're making image."
Okay.
And that's what we're kind of doing right now. But yeah, 2016, it became more bold because, let's face it, the industry's still greedy. And they're like, how can I save more money for myself so I could buy a third yacht by not paying anybody? Oh, I know, I'll pick the losers that can't get jobs and never tell them that they need to work on anything.
So it sounds like the quality has been going down because of a lack of talent, and, well, I would say leadership is really the key problem.
Oh, yeah. Well, the leadership wants to hire just slave labor. And slave labor that doesn't know it's slave labor because you glamorize it with a little bit of clout, virtue signaling, and promise of connections. That's why everybody sticks around in New York, even though they don't have to. If they were, and I get that. Like, when I was young, like, everybody was young once. And, you know, like, when you were in, like, nowadays you can look back at, like, high school or middle school and so forth, and then, like, you wonder, why did I take it so seriously? Like, what others thought about me? It's like, screw it. Who cares? What, these, like, menial things? But it felt like so much back then, and that's how I think that some of these people feel now. It's like, but if I don't do this, I won't get to go to Lindsay's party or something. But it's, you know, just
so at the publishing houses, it's all just this giant club where if you're not one of them, you basically don't get work.
Yeah, you have to the Harvey Weinstein situation, but in comics, except a little bit less on the sexual side. But yeah, it is heavily nepotism, clout. You know, like who you know, what you do, the connections. And sometimes that does work in some industries, that it's like, hey, I know a guy that could work there. Except in a lot of those industries, if your friend can't do it, they're out. And in fact, in some groups and so forth, they'll throw them harder across the rim to ensure that there's no favoritism. But here, no, it's all about who you know, who you suck up to. And even if you were incredibly talented, that doesn't matter if you aren't liked by the right people. The right people decide it. It's kind of like, sometimes I always think of it as, sometimes in the medieval eras, which is really weird. I'm sorry, like kind of like the French Renaissance with the hierarchies, or the when the Pope system got really bad.
Okay, so there was only a few monopolies, and if you weren't a part of the club, you couldn't do anything that you wanted to do.
Yeah, you could become blacklisted as well, chastised as
labeled a heretic, and now I mean, we are seeing. I think it's just touching on the same brain circuit, just in a different century. This whole witch hunting thing. Here is an outsider. We have to get rid of the outsider, or they're going to corrupt this beautiful little garden we have here.
Yeah, the pagans are here. The pagans have come to destroy.
It is, to me, I see it as the exact same behavior, just different words. Especially the witch hunting. But
no, absolutely. That's how I see it. And honestly, that's why I feel like if we sat down, we could literally write a comic about this, the culture war, but revamp it to something of a now the old religion is seen as heresy, or the old culture is seen as heresy as this everlasting kind of like Roman Empire comes over and they're purging everything. And it's these groups of the old factions that are banding together to try and preserve what's left of what they love.
Well, I've never liked the idea of being told that I'm allowed or not allowed to create something, especially with comics. It's really just me at a table doing my thing. And if I can find at least one person who wants to read it, all I have to do is copy that and paste that, 100, 1,000 times. I just need enough readers. But then you have, I don't want to use the word gatekeeper. It's kind of a muddy word right now, but the idea of a publisher behaving as what they should be doing in an ideal situation is choosing the best stories in terms of quality to give to readers that they might enjoy and they want to keep reading. But instead, it looks like publishers nowadays are behaving like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Monarchy?
Monarchy. Yeah, it's something like we're going to pick out the books that you should read instead of let me give you a whole bunch of choices and you can read what you like to read.
Yeah.
So they're behaving like I've never really read a lot of American comics, so maybe you can tell me more about, like, I know about the Image story and how they got started, but my understanding was Marvel back then, most of them came from Marvel, right?
A lot of it did, yeah. It was more visible in Marvel than anywhere else, though as well, Image, we're talking about when they went over the deep end, right?
Even before that, how they were founded and when they went over the deep end. I'm interested in both.
Yeah. So yeah, like Image was started because yes, they were all part of Marvel. What's really interesting is that I always mess up his name because I keep saying the Family Guy name.
McFarlane?
Yeah, McFarlane. He was originally just doing, once in a while a few different books. He had a very unique style that was very popular in the 90s. But nobody wanted to work in Spider-Man because it was just so chaotic. Because the editorial was already just a nightmare there. Anyway, but he offered to go on to just draw. But he would draw in unique ways. And later on, I believe that he was allowed to write some stories and so forth, and it started blowing up. Like, he was allowed to do really whatever he wanted in the beginning because, like, the editorial ignored him. But when he became popular, that's when they put the ball and chain on him and locked him away. They wouldn't allow him to do things he wanted, which upset him. So he realized that everybody, even though the higher up you go, the more restrictive they become of you. And it was just a nightmare for him. So he gathered a bunch of the other Marvel creators and they talked about this, and they felt that they couldn't have the creative freedom. So they left and made Image.
I find that that's an interesting pattern. Even we see that in film. Well, we used to talk about Star Wars all the time within our group, but the higher the budget, the more potential audience there is to be won. I feel like the corporate types they pump a lot of money into a project, but they also want creative control. And I find that ironic because I don't find that business people are especially talented at storytelling.
No. Here's the thing I always like to think of it as. Back in the day, in certain medieval eras, the king wasn't the most powerful person in the court. It was the priest.
That's cool.
And this is coming from a Catholic. So do not call me a heretic, everyone. Do not call me an atheist. I am religious. But I am going to call out problems. All right? So back in those eras, the priest was the most powerful person because they ruled the rule. They could state what the rules said, so they could control the narrative.
And the commoners didn't read the scriptures back then.
Yeah, and in fact, when they were allowing commoners to read, they rewrote pieces to ensure that they would stay lawful and stuff. It was pretty bad. So yeah, it's pretty much that it's power hunt. It's the craving for power. That
and to maintain it once you have it.
Yeah, you want to be in full control, and you want to be pretty much the god of these areas. And so it's like, I get to say what I want, and you will do as I want. And yeah, the editorial is heavily about that. I think Malin has said that before, that there was a book he was on, and there was a statement that was like really boldly, like really like very woke-esque. And he thought it was, I think Malin said this. Not sure where this came from, but I'm pretty sure it was Malin. A very woke statement that was put in, I think, one of his books. And he was like really shocked about this, but he was upset and he thought it was the writer. Turns out, no, the editor made them put that in. The editor did it. Because Sobolski rules. Sobolski is the king of is the priest, and he will demand what he wants, because nobody's going to go and tell the priest that God didn't want that.
Yeah.
If he says that's what God wants, everybody's going to believe it.
Well, I've always said executives don't fire themselves.
No,
So it's funny that there's this is really obscure. There's an anime called Kaiji Ultimate Survivor.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of rock, paper, scissors game that they play. But long story short, the only people that can overthrow bad executives are readers. And it's like rock, paper, scissors. The editors beat the creators beat the audience beats the editors. It's like this weird game of rock, paper, scissors. Anyway, so creators can't overthrow their bosses. Only the readers can.
Yeah.
And without creators make books for the audience, so if the audience relies on creators, it's this weird game. But anyway, the reason I bring it up is that I've noticed this indie movement, this recent one that you mentioned, maybe started in 2016 or earlier. It's a response that's been happening over the years, because even back in the 90s, I remember I always use the example of Jeff Smith with the series Bone, if you've heard of it.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. That I used to be just kind of I loved manga, but as I went into high school, I fell in love with a lot of more Western works.
Okay.
And that was the one. That was the one that really jaw dropped me, and I couldn't stop reading it.
Were you reading it when it was on shelves or in the trade paperbacks?
It was trade. It was the big book of it, because
the big fat one.
Yeah, because where I grew up, there were no comic book shops. There were literally no comic book shops where I grew up. But the school wanted to encourage more reading, so they would get popular comics, and they would get a ton of manga, but they started getting more comics, and they had they mostly had Marvel. They mostly had Marvel because they were going for what was in theaters, which was the X-Men movies and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So they had the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. And a bunch of the Ultimate X-Men. They had a lot of the Ultimate series. They were like, hey, this is good. This is good starting point. Yep, just chuck them in. And then we got some older ones. Like I got Dial H for Hero that I read up on. And they had some of the classic Daredevil and stuff like and the Runaways, which I fell in love with. And they also had Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane. I wasn't into that, though, because it was very manga. And I was like, look, if I want to read a manga, I'll go in the next section right over there. But I want to read some Western stuff, so I'd like to see the Western art. That was how I felt. I was like, don't be a poser.
But also, Bone was in a black and white style, although the art was very Western.
Yeah.
But the reason I ask is the way that he had originally published his series, if I recall, was that he wanted to go around Diamond. And back then, Diamond was the big hurdle that indie creators had to get over, just for distribution's sake.
Still a nightmare today. That's why we're going around it now.
Yeah, we're kind of learning our way. Like I've been selling books, maybe in the dozens, let's say, over the years. No more than a few dozen at a time. And just this past week, I've sent out like 100 books at once. And I've had to learn how to basically ship all these books and pack them and try to save money. And I haven't been doing a good job at it. But back in the day, in the 90s, you would have to go, in order to get your book in local comic shops, you had to go through Diamond. And for anyone who's not familiar, they are the distributors. So I would send 1,000, or I think their minimum was like 4,000. So it was really high. You have to sell 4,000 books to them, and then they will send those books to comic book shops who order your book. It's a very nasty kind of monopolistic situation where just basically if you want your store in a book, you have to already be famous. Or you would have to go and do what Jeff Smith did with Bone, which was to physically call every comic book shop in the country, I think, and then send them books every month. So his wife eventually quit her job and became the person who did that. And he was full-time drawing Bone, I think every month. Just imagine like this crazy, it's like laying down the tracks as you're riding this train.
Yeah.
We're sort of doing that today. I guess mail order.
Yeah, but you're right. He did really pave the way. And actually what also really helps is I saw an interview when Tech TV used to be really good. And they had an interview with him and stuff, and they talked about the whole entire story of him learning to make Bonin. And I feel like people need to notice this more, that you don't need, because like nowadays they kind of sell it, you have to be really young to get into an industry like that. He was what, in his 40s or 50s or something like that? He was working a regular job.
Was he?
Yeah.
I haven't seen this documentary in a while.
I mean, it's a really quick one. They were just interviewing him at for a talk show thing. I think it was Attack of the Show or something. But yeah.
I know I saw a documentary just about him and Bone, and I was really impressed. But there was like ElfQuest, was it? There was another lady creator with him, and I think it was Dave Sim, who was doing Cerberus. Something like that. Yeah. There was like this small group of creators, and they created something called the what was it? Bill of Rights for Creators or something with Scott McCloud. And back then there was this whole like anti-DC, anti-Marvel thing going on. So it coincided with Image, but I think Image came after this, where they were just meeting at conventions, all these creators, and saying like, how can we become indie creators? And I see that what we're doing, or our group of friends, are kind of, it's like a little renaissance of that.
It is. And it'll probably boom a little bit further because we now are in the informational age. And this is a very interesting thing. Marvel and DC, most of the big corporate comics, they don't adapt. And that became a huge problem with them, is that they don't adapt to the times. So they were the last to get on the internet train of digital and so forth. So the web comics took over, and they made fun of the web comics. And now the web comics get so many more viewers and like payment than they could ever imagine for one of their series. And it's because they blew it. It's kind of like in a way Blockbuster. Remember, they had a chance to get on the
Netflix train.
The Netflix offered them. Netflix wanted to not try by themselves, and they were like, "Hey, we're starting up a new thing called Netflix." Like, I don't think it was called Netflix back then. They were just pitching the idea to Blockbuster to get streaming on there, and they said no.
And this was Netflix was mail order. I remember even back then, you would actually have to physically order a disc. It would come in the mail, and then there would be a return envelope. You mail it back, and then you can rent more stuff.
Yeah, and I think as well, they had I think you could stream a few things, but it was very limited, and it used to be like popular stuff. But yeah, you could mail it. I mean, you could get those that way. Our family got into it because they would have the things that you couldn't get at the Blockbuster. And there were movies that my family wanted to watch that weren't at the Blockbuster. And so that's how we got into it. And of course, then, I mean, it's far more popular that way. I am kind of bummed that Blockbuster is gone, because at times they won't let you stream stuff when they come out to DVD. You have to wait like a month or something like that to go and see it, which pisses me off, because it's like, but I want to see it now, but I can't see the special features anymore. Like, that was another cool thing.
Yeah, that's true.
CDs with the special features. Now we don't.
Man, I'm trying to think. I just like I used to work at a video store, actually. It was as soon as I dropped out of college, that's where I worked. And I liked the atmosphere, like trying new things. Oh, what's this movie? What's this movie? And I discovered a lot of anime and stuff. And
Yeah.
I went into this whole movie phase, but I guess Netflix allows that. But the way that you describe Marvel and DC being these giant corporations that won't change, it reminded me of the Titanic metaphor of it's such a big boat that they can't steer it out of the way in time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, indie comics are like these little speedboats, and like we can turn on a dime if we need to.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, I think you're absolutely right. But also at the same time, it's people don't see the danger that is right in front of them as what happened on the Titanic. They're like, no, it'll be fine. The Titanic is unsinkable.
Yeah.
And people waited too long. As I remembered, you did do that comic and so forth of the Titanic sinking. And they call they're just making, and all the people that are on the Titanic are calling everybody else a cis male, and that serve this company. Meanwhile, they're sinking to death while everybody else is on the lifeboat to just watch them like those idiots. But I love that one.
I mean, if that's what the case is, like if we have a lot of, let's say, right now comics is navigating through waters with lots of icebergs, metaphorically speaking. So maybe it makes most sense to kind of spread out and find what the audience wants to read, as opposed to saying this is what the audience should want to read. Therefore, we're going to force all of our IPs into this bottleneck. That's what, I mean, again, I haven't been reading a lot of American comics, but I know that that's the major criticism, is that they're taking existing characters and changing them in ways that the existing audience doesn't want. And I suppose the publishers are hoping that they'll find a new audience to support them in time before they take too much damage.
I wonder if that's truly the case. It just seems more like when I read this stuff, I cringe and I grit my teeth and so forth. And most of these books are very heavily politically based, where they're talking about, I hate Donald Trump all the time. It's like, that's great, but he's only going to be here for like less than a decade. You want to do something else? Because it's going to be irrelevant. Like, that's how I feel, because it's culture. It's, we're doing art.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be everlasting. But yeah, so pretty much what I feel, I think I have talked to people about this. And the reason that they do this, they'll swap the characters, like the legacy line that like blew up in their faces and was just terrible. The reason that they were swapping characters is that they wanted, it's obvious. They wanted their characters in. They wanted their OC. They wanted their Mary Sue to take over these roles and positions. Why do you want Iron Man to be your Riri when you can make Riri her own character? Well, it turns out they knew that the marketing people would read people would only read them because it said Iron Man. They would read this because it said Spider-Man. They would read that because it said Thor. Because they wanted the power of the already established IP. So in my mind and how I feel about it, it means they had no faith in that character whatsoever, and they knew it was garbage.
I see.
What's really happening is, as well, most of these people, MCU did really well. The MCU, bam, comes out of nowhere, amazing, makes market sales, blowing up, everybody is freaking loving it and everything. Well, don't forget who are running right now current comics are failed writers. Most of them are failed script writers. Most of them and a lot of others are just small young adult novelists. And what seems to be a heavy trend is a lot of the novelists and writers want to get into film. They want to get into film. And back in the day, like people like Jerry Conway and so forth, they got into it. They got into TV. Like Jerry's done like Law and Order and stuff like that. A lot of people have done like moved on from comics to do films and other writing and noir and radio or whatever. But so they don't care about the culture. They just saw where that guy went. They want to get to the final destination. So they use this as a stepping stone. And
sorry.
Oh, no. You go.
They don't mind that the ship is sinking. They're just going to move on to the next thing.
Oh, yes. No, they don't even care. The thing is, as well, why they make those unique characters is that they're hoping the MCU will use their characters in the film so they can get royalties. Only reason. They make the unique characters because then they get clout, they get recognition, and that will open up opportunities into stuff. At least that's what they're hoping. Like the chick that did the Captain Marvel comic, she had a guest appearance in the Captain Marvel movie, and they used most of her script because, let's face it, Carol keeps getting retconned every 5 minutes. She's not going to be popular. I'm sorry.
I think she's been rebooted like say 8 times or something.
I don't know if she's going to get anywhere. Really, it's just she thinks this will happen. And here's the other thing: what we have learned about Marvel, they don't give you good royalties for your work, for your efforts. You get jack. That's what happened to Starling. Starling has bluntly admitted after he retired from Marvel, the reasons why was literally he was kicked off his own book, Thanos. He wasn't allowed to write the series he wanted, and his royalty checks came in. He made Thanos, Drax, and Gamora, and combined, it wasn't as much as the Batman versus Superman fill-in character that he wrote years ago that was added in as a background for 5 minutes. He was one of the bad guys that kidnapped Clark's mom. That was it. He literally realized they were screwing him over and they were just using him. He wasn't cared for. He wasn't liked, so he got up and he left. And he had to pay for his own trade. They do not care about you. They just want some sweatshop work. They do not even care if you have recognition. If you're nowhere near their little circle, they will spit on your face. They'll pretend that you're some sort of honored hero, and they'll praise you, but really, they want you to leave. They think they can just use you, and that's what breaks my heart.
Well, they're getting away with it. You don't hear about all the times they're screwing creators over.
Yeah, it's and here's the other thing, which I'm knowing too, is MCU's done. I know they're like, well, we're going into phase whatever. Who else are you gonna bring in? Because literally, all I've just heard is Spider-Man, and that's it. There is no other movie. What? You're going to make another, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? Guess people will go see that, but what else you got? Another Captain Marvel? Well, she's not going to make as much as she did last time because everybody went to go see her damn movie to see connections to Endgame. That's bloody it. Yeah. So that's down. Who else are you going to do? There's no message for another Black Panther movie, and I have yet to see any new characters being announced. They're done. They don't know where to go. They lock themselves into a corner, and fast. They're screwed.
This touches upon a topic that I'm really interested about. We talked about this off air a little bit. Well, all right. So you mentioned importing new characters into existing IPs like Riri, for example, with Iron Man. And I think what they're trying to do, or what they would love to do, is increase their audience pool. Like, say, the existing nerds as a guy, let's say, they'll read anything that they regurgitate. But then they want to also touch lady readers. They want to get out there and get more diverse, in air quotes, readers.
That's what they say.
Well, it would make business sense. You want to try to get the interest of as many lady readers as possible. But my existing theory, and you can tell me if this is wrong, is that I don't think women in general want to read power fantasy books in the way that it's being written. They're written almost as if they're for guys. Let's say, I don't know, some bad guy comes, robs a bank. He gets punched by some powerful character, and now she, patrols the streets looking for trouble. I don't know if most lady readers want to read that. And the reason I say that is that manga is exploding, and anime and games are exploding with young readers who, if you go to an anime convention, there's at least 50% ladies there. But if you go to an American comics convention, there's not as many. And I think the reason is that there are actual, I hate to use the word diversity, there's a lot of different genres that ladies might be interested in that Marvel and DC aren't even bothering to touch. Like, say, romance, for example. I love shoujo comics, for example.
Yeah.
Is it just that they're trying to adapt guy comics for girl readers by making girl main characters? Shouldn't they? Maybe should. Well, if they wanted to survive, I don't care if they do.
Yeah. This is a very interesting subject, and I do have my own opinions on this. So yeah, I can definitely tell you. All right. First of all, the chosen female writers that they picked are from young adult novelists. The issue is that from what I'm recalling, what I'm seeing in most of them, they're writing all the same story. They're not writing for women. They say they're writing for women. Sometimes they make the excuse, we're writing for young girls. No, they're writing for themselves. They don't understand writing. Because here we have J.K. Rowling, one of the biggest writer, like she made Harry Potter, and that appealed to everyone.
Yeah.
Like Frankenstein was made by a woman. In other words, she's the first origin of sci-fi. Appeal to a heck ton of people. Really, the people currently, they're using it as an excuse. And of course, the marketing team doesn't understand pardon my French, jack shit of what the industry wants. They don't care as long as they're cheap. They think that they know because it's like, oh, they go on the Twitter and the Tumblr. They totally know what kids want. But in reality, all they have to do is understand. Like, this issue happened in the 90s as well with Clone Saga. They're like, well, oh, why is Clone Saga doing so well? Is it because it's actually being written well? No, it's got to be the clones because that's what's on the cover. Like, it's got to be the clones. No, in truth, it was because the story was so compelling. If they just sat there and read it, they would understand. But no, then they demanded it to be lengthened in more clones, and in fact used more clones in other series. And that's when it became hell. But yeah, so they don't want to put in the effort. That's the thing. They don't see the art or the heart into it. They're trying to go by the numbers. They're trying to see the first layer. And that is the worst idea ever. So, so pretty much they pick out the wrong female writers. But yes, a lot of female writers. Female readers love romance, and in fact,
I love romance.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. I'm not a big fan of heavy romance. I like it light. And that's why Spider-Man is very appealing to girls as well. If you notice, Spider-Man has a shonen-esque kind of feel. There's a love triangle that tends to go on. There's some comedy. Back in the day, if you read the old stuff, I love reading the old stuff. It's very comedy. It's very fun. It's very flamboyant. You want to know what's like an old comic and why it's blowing up so well? JoJo.
Okay.
JoJo is literally like a classic comic book. Like, I've been watching the anime a bit, and I'm like, dear God, it flows like an original old school comic book, and I love it for that. And it's beautiful too. And okay, I'm sorry, I keep jumping back and forth, but here's the thing. I remember sitting there during an interview with Stanley. He was talking to somebody about all different comics that they would write and so forth, and he said back in the day, Iron Man was doing really well for women readers. Most of the readership were women for Iron Man. Why was that? It was a sexy playboy billionaire, very dark, with a painful past and a heart condition, and he was so lonely. So yeah, chicks ate that up. They're like, oh man, I could be there for you, baby. And so yeah, it is literally, it had the hint of romance and love and so forth that women wanted. We can enjoy those things, but you gotta mix it in. Like, but yeah, romance was a very popular thing. And in fact, Jack Kirby stopped writing Captain America to write romance. I mean, to draw and write it with his, with the writer. I forget his name. Oh, I'm going to hell for that. But, yeah, they left Marvel to write romance comics. Romance comics, I believe, were actually during the comic book code were kind of like kicked off because of the things that they would have in those comics. So those were like removed completely off the earth. But yeah, shoujo is very popular. It depends mostly. I like a lot of shoujos, but I'm a weird girl. So I like my shoujos to have comedy and not be super emo depressing, like whatever, like, oh, Yuki, I miss you. I'm so lonely without you, but you're in love with somebody else. And in reality, he's all like, I'm engaged to her, but I really like Sakura. It's like, oh my god, shut up.
It's a bit formulaic, yeah.
Yeah, I like Fruit Basket because it was comedic. It was very comedic, and I love Toru. Toru was a really good character because she was different. That's what you like. Yeah, romances can be great, and honestly, that is something that the Western comics should show. But nowadays, because they have these writers that don't understand how people work and just want to write for themselves, if you've noticed, romance is gone in comics. If you read more of the Western ones, there's no romance. Romance usually leads to failure. Like, look, Spider-Man, one more day. We're not allowed to have him in love. We're not allowed to have him happy. In fact, that was an issue in DC years back. A guy that was writing Batwoman, he wanted Batwoman to get married to her lover. They're like a lesbian relationship would get into a proposal and then they'd be married. And everybody, like, he was writing it for that. And they literally told him they would not allow him because characters cannot be happy. So he quit.
Huh.
He quit because it's because that's another issue, and I think I've stated this a lot on Twitter. I'm not here to read a soap opera. I'm here to read an adventure, and I would like them to be rewarded. I don't like why would I read about a romance which I know is never going to happen? Will they, won't they? Well, they're never going to, because you will never progress. And so who cares? But manga does progress the story. People do get married. People do romance in these comics. That's what's the difference between manga and so forth. It's what we got Dragon Balls. We got Dragon Ball. Goku grew up and he married Chi-Chi. And then Dragon Ball Z, Bulma married the villain, Vegeta. And their future son for the future came to go and save everybody. That was pretty cool. So, I mean, he doesn't write, like, heavy romance, but it's there. Slightly, like, Kira Toriyama can't write romance. I think that was, like, a statement as well. He's like, I'm not good at this. But he tries, and he does a good job. In fact, I've read Dr. Slump, and it's a very cute, wholesome story, too. Also, sorry, I'm ranting.
No, I agree. It sounds what you were describing with Batgirl, or Batwoman, I'm sorry, was sort of a carrot on a stick problem that a lot of major publishers do. And that's one of my criticisms of a lot of shonen manga, actually, the long-running series, is that they're planned in such a way that there will be an end boss eventually, but they keep moving that goal. As long as the series is popular, they'll never really reach that ending.
Getting DLC packs!
Yeah, I use the comparison of, like, let's say I wanted to take a road trip from New York to Chicago. And then, on my way to Chicago, I want to stop by, I don't know, wherever, Boston or something. It's the other direction, but it doesn't matter. But then they say, instead of going to Chicago, your actual end goal is LA. And then when you get to LA, they're like, oh no, actually we're going to Tokyo. So they keep moving the goalposts. And I don't appreciate, in some manga or comics or anime or something, there's always this character that gets introduced in the last act. All of a sudden, comes out of nowhere, and it's like, now the series will go on even longer. And
oh god, it's the Naruto syndrome.
Right, it's really frustrating. I don't appreciate as an audience member. I don't want to have a stack of 50 volumes or more. Yeah. However long Naruto is. I'm sure it was good, but at some point I'm like, no, I realized, like, you guys are actually taking advantage of me. Get to the point of the story. Stop dragging me along. Like, I want to get to the ending. I want to enjoy other comics. Like, you can make another comic. It's okay, but get to the end of this story, please.
That's why I think a lot of people like JoJo, because it's a branching family line. So when the JoJo is done, another JoJo takes the place.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It could be like, one of Joseph Joestar's bajillion children because he banged everybody. Or it could be Jotaro, and when Jotaro's done, his daughter takes over, or like we go to the other like the JoJo line is spreads out, so you can go to 1001. Sometimes Dragon Ball Z is I guess kind of good with this because it's like, hey, we're done, we killed Frieza, yay! And then like another book shows up. It's like everybody went back to normal until this bad guy shows up. It's like, oh no, let's go punch him in the face.
There was a certain fatigue I remember. Well, it came out when I was in high school. The Frieza saga was finishing when I was finishing high school. And then as they kept raising their power levels and other useless characters got weaker and weaker, like Krillin could not stand up to Cell. I'm like, why are you even here anymore, dude?
Actually, that's what I called the Green Lantern Brightest Day Blackest Night series. I said it suffered from Saiyan syndrome when I was younger, which means you have to, like, in Dragon Ball Z, which was why I got so sick of it for a very long time. I know Super's fixed up a lot of the issues. Not all of it, but they've been fixing it up so people could stand apart. What really helped, so in the Brightest Day Blackest Night series, you had to be a lantern in order to do anything in that story. You can't defeat anybody if you're not a lantern. So only lantern. Everybody had to get a ring. Everybody had to get a ring. Kind of cool concept. Except, but these guys are way more powerful because they got these rings and everything. And I was like, where is this going to end? They literally are just going to keep building up power levels so they can blow up the earth. And then what's the point? There is no stopping. There is no full circle. There is no circle of life. Like, at that point, I'm like, there's going to be a white lantern. And nobody believed me, but I was like, no, there's going to be a white lantern. And I hope to God, and I know they're not going to do this, but I hope to God it's like something stupid like a squirrel. A squirrel is it kills the ultimate bad guy, and then it makes everybody realize that even the smallest and weakest of things can become the most powerful because it fixes the circle, the circle of life, where, like, the fish gets eaten by the bird gets eaten by the lion, and then the lion, like, and the lion gets killed by a mosquito because it had poison, and then the mosquito gets eaten by a fish. Circle! Like, that's how it goes, that the smallest of things can be more powerful, but something else can take it, and that's incredibly important if you're doing a powerhouse move, and that's where we get there. Sorry, I keep ranting. Yes, Christina. Sorry, somebody in the chat asked, did I read Skip Beat? Yes, I liked Skip Beat to a point, but they're dragging it on and on and on and on at points, and I'm like, I'm done.
In RPGs, I don't know if you play them besides, like, well, I guess it happens in Persona. I know you play Persona. Yeah. There's something called power creep, and it's sort of what happens when you reach a certain level in the RPG, level in terms of stats. When you're too powerful, and then you steamroll everything in the whole game, and then they keep introducing like ultra bosses at the very end that are so much more powerful than you that you have to train for like 5 hours to fight them. And all they're doing, they're not making the game more interesting or complex. All they're doing is making the numbers so much bigger that you have to grind to get to that goal. Yeah, they do it. Dragon Quest does it. A lot of games do it, especially MMORPGs. I hate it when my time is wasted like that. So anytime that, like, especially in my writing, I try to keep this in mind, where there's going to be a ceiling where there is only one enemy who is the strongest enemy, and you can encounter enemies on the way, but once you beat that enemy, that's it, we're done. Like, the character has now beaten the enemy, their power level is really high, and it's like Goku growing up. I don't know. I keep thinking of like how Krillin and Tenshin Han, they got so useless by the time Frieza rolled around.
And I like Tien, which pissed me off. It's like, can we like make them powerful again?
It's really sad to me to think, like, I don't know. It's a pet peeve of mine, but I don't like when the goalposts are moved.
Honestly, that's why as a kid, as a teenager, I preferred Dragon Ball more than Dragon Ball Z, because I was like,
yeah, it was small, cute, fun.
Also, everybody had incredible strength. Like Tien was like incredibly powerful. Yamcha was really good at his stuff, and everything else. It's a problem with some of these things, and it's very difficult to fix after times.
Well, there has to be a hard reset in a series, but the problem is I think what they do is they just overstay their welcome.
Oh yeah,
there are natural points where you can end a story. Do what JoJo did. I don't know about Boruto. Christina mentioned Boruto.
Yeah. Boruto, he's actually not writing it, which I think is kind of smart in a way, because like at the point it's like, well, the writer wrote Naruto, so it's fine if somebody else decides to write Boruto, because pass the torch, whatever representation. But Boruto's weird to me. I think it's a little bit like I don't know what the frig is going on sometimes in that. I
don't know. I just don't like the idea of wasting my audience's time. Like if I always write my stories with clear endings. Like this is exactly how long it's going to be. Maybe I'll take a few detours if people are enjoying it. Like I'll write in a side story for fun, but it's always going to be stepping up toward that story climax.
That is a thing that happens with Western comics, is that there is not supposed to be an end for certain things. But
I can't stand that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that to a point. It's how you do it. It's kind of like a book of Sherlock Holmes or Sinbad and so forth. They just go on another adventure, but it's a random other story. But that's not what everybody's seeing in their. That's not what current writers see. Is that, well, you gotta leave room. You get to put something there that hasn't been done before, and then you just leave it to the next person. I hate it when they overpower the characters too, which they're doing now. And they're just like, Spider-Man's a billionaire now. No, he can't be a billionaire. It goes against all the principles.
And it's not relatable.
Yeah, it's not relatable. It's fine if some people are not relatable. I mean, Tony Stark's the billionaire. No, he's not anymore. He's adopted. That's stupid. All right, here's the thing. Spider-Man is a blue-collar hero. He is meant to be the little guy. He's meant to be the nobody. And you literally made him a billionaire, but he's not a billionaire anymore. Well, he had a flunking company. Everybody's going to know him for the rest of his life. They better somehow retcon this like you did the marriage. But they can't because of 10 years. Well, they did it to the stupid marriage now, didn't they? That was amazing that people liked. Shut your face. But sorry. Yeah. People want to leave their mark. That's another issue. Okay. So manga, you write your manga. You get to write it. You're the only one that gets to write it. Not in Western comics. Western comics, it's passed to whoever. The original creator can be even removed from their own comic and then replaced by somebody else if it's owned by that company.
It's a great point.
Yeah, so your story may never but here's the other thing. So it's what I've always felt Western comics are, because this is a heavy difference between manga and them, is that it's like art restoration. It's a giant tapestry that you must restore and keep pristine for people to love for generations. And yes, you can put your own brushstrokes in. You can put a little bit of your own thing. I mean, it's a collage. It's a mosaic or whatever you call it. So you're going to put in your own piece in there that maybe people will really like. But here's the issue. So many of the current writers, current restoration artists want to be the one known. They want to be known as that creator. They don't want the original artist to be known at all. So they'll take a giant brush and make an enormous stroke that smears and destroys the whole entire painting. That's the issue we're having, because I get it at a point. It's like, I want to leave my mark. I want to be remembered, because there's iconic stories throughout comics that people love. Kraven's Last Hunt, the Dark Phoenix saga. I think people like the Dark Phoenix saga. Like all these things. Everybody wants to leave their mark. But what they don't want is to respect the next person. It's greed. It's greed. I want it. I want everything. But they never consider the people around them. Only about them. It's numero uno. And that's when things become destroyed. Because nobody's thinking, what will happen after I'm done? How are we going to, because especially because they're thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about the character.
I
know, guys, character's not real or anything. Well, it's art. To me, it's art. It's a culture. Respect it.
I suppose anytime there's an IP or intellectual property, you have a case of the holders of the IP need it to basically go on forever.
Yeah.
And so that's why you get a million reboots, million different versions of every story, which I think is the main reason why I've never been into American comics. I like something like Watchmen. There's only one Watchmen as far as I'm concerned. There isn't a million spin-offs for me to read, and I don't know what the story is, and I don't know who these characters are.
I feel like it lost its touch after a time where it's here's another interesting thing. In Marvel, not all the it was a very rare occurrence when characters would team up and meet each other. So sometimes they were friends with certain characters, like Spider-Man the Fantastic Four would hang out often, but not all the time. It wasn't like one of them was going to hang out with Ghost Rider and then hang out with Captain Marvel and then hang out with Doctor Strange. It was rare occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
But now everybody's in New York chilling for no freaking reason. That's what made it special. Like right now, which I would love to see sometime, is a little team up comic or interaction between some of the characters in there. Like, I don't know. I know that the Art Press is going to do that with a few of theirs. What was it? Black Ops USAGI, Wanpool and Rags are all in the same universe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they decided that because they want to reference each other in some ways.
That's fun.
So, and in fact, I think Punchline is in the same universe as well, because there's artwork and they're planning on doing a team up comic with Black Ops, Punchline, and Rags together. So Rags is right now in California, and it would be slightly referenced in other books I hear that there was a zombie outbreak. Black Ops is somewhere in, I think, Kansas, and, you know, he's been dealing stuff with North Korea, and he's just a tiny rabbit, so he's adorable. He just chills there. So, and then Wanpool, I believe, is in, oh my gosh, I forgot where Wanpool is. Is he in Mexico? No, he's in, he's not in California, I know that. But yeah, so they all mix together. They're all like, but it's not like they're going to hang out all the time. It's just slowly referenced, and then they can sometimes cross paths. I would love that more with a bunch of other indie comics to do that. That'd be kind of cool. Like, I don't know. I think it's in Ragnarok. There is one indie comic that literally referenced most of the universes. There's they're showing like a spread, like a guy's like, I can see all the worlds out there, and you see them. There's a picture of Cyberfrog. There's a picture of Graveyard Shift. There's a picture of Stardust, and there's a picture of a ton of others.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's fun. It makes it special, but you can't do it constantly. It's got to be rare because it loses its love.
It kind of creates the problem with Dragon Ball Z at the very end. There's too many powerful characters interacting. Yeah. So now you have to think of one boss that they all can team up against, I suppose. But once that boss is beaten, there's nowhere left to go.
Yeah, I feel like what they need to think of it as is Smash Brothers, where it's like we don't see Mario hanging out with Link in his games now, do we? We don't see like Pikachu hanging out with Sonic the Hedgehog in his games.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see that. They don't merge together because it doesn't fit. But there's this one game where they all team up. And sometimes they have a story and a crazy adventure that goes on. But then they go back to their own little worlds. Yes, some of the characters connect, but not all of them. Like Donkey Kong and Mario connect. Donkey Kong connects with Banjo, but Banjo doesn't connect with Mario. Mm-hmm. Cloud connects with no one. I'm sorry, guys. Bayonetta does not connect with Joker as much as we think it's funny that Bayonetta's Joker's mom. That isn't canon. But there's this one time they all mix together. And it's also kind of like that with Marvel vs. Capcom, the original ones. We don't talk about the new 3D ones. We talk about the old ones. So they mix together really well. And it's fun. It's like, oh no, something happened. Let's all team up and we go punch that guy. Okay, bye. And then they just like, because that's fun. Because then we get to see our favorite character interacting with our other favorite characters. Like,
it's like a party.
Yeah, like your new character, Mary Sue. Mary Sue may one day get to interact with Cyberfrog or something. And then like, oh my god. And then like people could read like, oh my god, Mary Sue's hanging out with Cyberfrog. And it's like this one event.
Right. Like, it would just be a little, it would be like the kind of person that wants to be at a party all the time. You would be exhausted.
Yeah. Also, it's kind of like what I always said, it's like cake. Cake is delicious, right? What's your favorite cake?
Oh, tiramisu.
Tiramisu. You wouldn't want to eat tiramisu every day.
No, I'd get sick of it.
Yeah, you get sick of it. And it becomes more special. Sometimes I like to tell myself this on a diet as well. It's like the cake tastes more divine the longer I wait.
It's special.
Yeah.
I can see that. But I guess if, let's say Marvel is a cake company now, and all they want to do is create cakes, and now they're creating an audience with diabetes and stuff. And they're saying, no, eat more cake, please. This is all we can sell now. Eat all the cake. But then it's like all the other things on the menu, nobody wants to eat it anymore.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know. But one of the things that we touched upon, I don't know if you want to keep going. We're about 70 minutes. Are you okay to continue for a little longer?
Dude, I got all day. Like I said, okay, everybody in the audience, I have the week off.
Okay. I do want to respect everyone's time, of course. Yeah. But I figure, you know, there's a million interesting topics. But to go back to, you mentioned Mary Sue. One of the questions that I want to ask, especially lady readers, is like, all right, so there's the cliche of the female main character who's strong and all that stuff. But what I wanted to do with this book specifically is to kind of go in the opposite direction, or sort of to make it ironic. We call her Mary Sue ironically, in that she has everything she needs and she's powerful, but she's also really derpy, clumsy, all that funny stuff. But I want to make sure that this kind of book can appeal. Like, I don't know how many books in, let's say, Comicsgate or indie comics are specifically or universally appealing. I want to make sure that I can make a character, make a book that everyone wants to read. So are there any like tips or pieces of advice that you might offer to a creator who wants to create a universally appealing story?
Well, okay. It sounds a lot like, it kind of reminds me of the context. It's definitely not going to be 100% like this. But it kind of reminds me of Sailor Moon. Remember, Sailor Moon was a powerhouse. Like, she was super strong. She could purify people when they turned into monsters, which was impossible for others to do. She was supposed to be the leader. And she falls over, she cries, she freaks out whenever she sees an opponent. She gets thrown across the room several times, and somebody has to motivate her, so she shoots a laser beam and kills them. But what assisted in making Sailor Moon a really good character was that she was clumsy. She was awful at her job, but she would do it for the sake of others, because she still had that really good heart, which was why people were like, why her team was like, yeah, she's our leader. It's because she was the only one that would stand up for them. And it showed in the manga a little bit more, which they did a new adaptation of in the anime. Mm-hmm. Not a big fan of that one because it gets way like really weird. But yeah, it's like, what was it? Sailor Jupiter. In the beginning, nobody wanted to hang with her because she was like super like buff and stuff. Like people
athletic.
Yeah, she was okay, in the original anime, I don't know if this was in the remaster or whatever. In the original anime, people were terrified of Sailor Jupiter. She transferred into a new school because she beat up all the gangsters in her old school. Mm-hmm. And people thought she was a thug and she was a monster, so they wouldn't go near her. But Sailor Moon would go up to her. She goes, no, she seems really nice, and she just walked up and she hung out with her. Sailor Mars in the manga, it was known, people thought she was a witch because people were getting spirited away near her temple. So they thought she was putting a curse. But Sailor Moon was literally like, no, she can't. She looks really nice. So she went up and she just hung out with her. And okay. Sailor Mercury, people were terrified of going near her because it's like, she's such an academic. Like, she doesn't want to hang out with anybody. And then Sailor Moon's like, hey, do you like arcades? That's why people liked Sailor Moon. That's why, because
not because she had the best Kamehameha.
Yeah, she wasn't, and she wouldn't throw a temper tantrum. She did deserve a bit of a win because it was like she's terrible at her job, but she cares about her coworkers. Is the thing. Like she will stand up and she'll continue. Like even in the first episode or whatever, when her friend she finds out is being attacked by a monster, she doesn't want to become a superhero. That was also another thing, is that Sailor Moon was just kind of it's immediately labeled. Sailor Moon is bad at everything. She's not good at grades. She's not athletic. She eats too much and she's lazy. And she's like, man, if I could be a superhero, I wouldn't have to deal with any of this. And nobody would have to tell me. Nope, she becomes a superhero and she realizes that's a terrible thing. Because she's like, I was just, just daydreaming. I didn't mean it. Like when Luna's like, you're the chosen one. And she's like, I don't want this. But immediately she finds out her friend is in trouble. Like her best friend is in danger. And she's like, what? My friend's in trouble. She immediately dashes to go after her. And of course, immediately there, she's like, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. And so, like,
yeah,
screaming and being chased around.
I remember loving that series. Now, when I was, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but when I was in elementary school, I remember I would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to watch Sailor Moon on Channel 11 in my area.
That was what I did. I think I was like in 7th grade or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I was tired of seeing, because of course, girl power is a thing. 7-year-olds, yes, are very into the girl power-esque thing till you're like 9, and then it fades out. It's a phase, which is why I'm very sick of it for adult things. I'm like, this isn't going to appeal to us. But all right, so it was kind of, I guess this would happen for everybody. It's like you watch you want to enjoy a superhero series because it really pumps you up. Even little girls get pumped up by them. There were no superheroes for me. What do I got? The Super Friends? Super Friends was terrible. I didn't even understand what Wonder Woman did. She's like, I got a magic lasso. And I'm like, I don't even know what she's doing. Until Justice League showed up. And I'm like, she can lift. She's like Superman, but magical. Why wasn't this here? Mm-hmm. That was my issue. And so He-Man was off air by that point. So I never knew She-Ra. So I went on a quest because I knew that there were like some different shows that were coming out because they were I guess it was Sailor Moon just came out on it. I didn't know about it. So there were some knockoff shows and I was trying to find these knockoff shows I was told about because I was like, I want to see a girl superhero. Mm-hmm. And I was like looking for it. And I'm like, this isn't the show I wanted, but it looks nice. So I'll sit down and watch it. And it was Sailor Moon. And I still remember the episode. It was the Disneyland episode where they went to the evil Disneyland. And it was fun because it was 3 girls and they were just hanging out and the talking cat's like, hey guys, something bad's happening at Disney World. People are going missing. And then one of them's like, sweet, we're gonna go to Disney World? And the other one's like, dude, not now. We're literally like, people are getting eaten at Disney World. We get to go play at Disney World. We're looking. And then other one's like, maybe I can ask out that guy I like. It's like, no, you too. And then like they go to Disney World, and then it's like, oh no, there's a bad guy. He's possessed Disney World. And then they have to beat him up. But every character had a different trait, different aspect, and they were badass. Like that was kind of cool. Like Sailor Mars is shooting fireballs. Mercury. Well, she's Mercury. I hate Mercury.
She was boring, I remember. The bubbles. I'm like, what is this?
I was like, people are like, Sailor Mercury. I'm like, that's because you're a loser. Like, Sailor Mercury wasn't good till season 6 when she finally got an attack. Like, Shine Aqua Illusion. I'm like, where has that been, bitch?
Oh, man.
You finally got it. But yeah, so Sailor Mercury was... But yeah, then we got Jupiter, who was my favorite, because... This is why I like Jupiter, and this is what I'm sick and tired of in modern comics. In Western comics, a woman that is strong has to look super buff and masculine. Oh, and they have to automatically be a lesbian.
Right, and they have to, this sounds controversial, but they have to act like a man or a caricature of a man.
Yeah.
Like, they have to be jerks. Like, why? Men don't all act like that. That's stupid.
Yeah. In fact, would you want to date, women? Does anybody want to date a male jerk like this asshole that's like, such a bitch, go out and cook me dinner or something like that? No, you don't. You don't want that.
People.
You So why do you want to worship somebody like that guy, but with boobs? They're still stupid, but that's why I like Sailor Jupiter, because and this is what I always think of. I always think what would Sailor Jupiter do? Because Sailor Jupiter was the strongest until the outer Sailor Scouts, but nobody cares about that. But so she was the strongest of them. She was she had Jupiter Thunder or whatever, so she had the cool stuff. And she was the strongest. She beat up bullies. Like in real life, without even her power, she was still beating the shit out of people to the extent. And she was, but here's the thing. Sailor Jupiter's main goal after school was to become a housewife. Sailor Jupiter just wanted to settle down and just get married. And I always thought, like, wow, that's dumb. But at the same time, it's like, it wasn't a bummer to me because it was unique and different. Because it's like, why, like, sure, you have these traits and stuff, but that doesn't mean you have to do them. Like, Sailor Jupiter, like, that's why she was such a good cook as well, and she was great at cleaning, was because she spent her time practicing. She wanted to become a really good housewife. She wanted to be a mother. So she wanted this lifestyle, so she practiced at it.
These kinds of stories are good, especially if you don't connect to one character, there's going to be another one that you do like.
Yeah.
And these are good little ensemble stories. Of course, well, there was all the Sentai stories like Power Rangers and all those sorts of things. So I guess Sailor Moon is like a girl's version of the Power Rangers type of thing where they had transformations, which, by the way, as a young man, I thought was banging.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest. I was like this little 7-year-old watching them transform, like, whoa,
dude,
they're naked.
Okay, what was also cool about the Power Rangers was everybody can enjoy them. Like, little girls love the Power Rangers because, like, you know, like, it helps when you're a little kid to have a female hero. So, oh, look, there's 2 chicks on the Power Rangers. We got the pink and the yellow. They ride their own giant robots, and they help fight with their giant robot, and then they all have cool weapons, and they do kung fu kicks as well. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, I won't be Yellow Ranger. I don't even know if that's racist yet, because I can't understand some racism like that.
It was cool, and you wanted it.
Yeah, I wanted it. Like, I thought that was really awesome, was that these characters were just, like, you could also like all the other ones. Like, I like the Blue Ranger as well. When he left, I was super sad. I was like, no, not the Blue Ranger! But yeah, so you like them because they're all different, all unique, and they're good friends, and they're good people. Like, it's not like, okay, so the champions with Mark Waid, they're all just stereotypical teenagers. Like, I think you just watched Degrassi and was like, howdy do, fellow children. It's like, oh my god, I'm performing a microaggression. They all talk like that, and they're talking with like weird things, like, I don't know what my sexual preferences are. I'm gonna kiss the guy right there, and then I'm gonna kiss the girl. I'm like, what is this, VH1's like reality TV show about the stupidest people in the room?
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like, that's how you write. Like, no. You can write, and like, it doesn't, like, you can also have characters that are like, you can have more women on a team than men. It's fine. Like, look at Avatar. There were there were just 2 dudes that shoot chicks. Who cares though? Like, Avatar, The Last Airbender was really popular. It also had an ending, mind you all. But
well, Christina Lynn mentions that they followed it up with Korra.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about Korra, okay? Korra I did have fun with, but looking back on it, I'm like, oh, I was just in Avatar mode, so I was sad. Because I didn't like any of the romances, except for the Asami one, even though that was just kind of like, you want to talk about it a bit more? No? Okay. But I hated Mako. I didn't like Korra's design in the last season. All these spirits were horrible dicks. No, seriously, look back at them. They were whiny. They were bratty. They were literally SJWs. They wanted everything handed to them. Like, it's not my fault that this is happening. Hey, you're trying to hit me. I'm going to destroy you, even though I insulted you and called you racist shit 5 minutes before. And they didn't want to help in the end. I hated them. I hated them so much. I did like Varric. I thought Varric was really cool. Julie, do the thing. I love him. But that series had a lot of problems. In fact, the animal characters did jack diddly squat. I did like season 3, though. I liked season 3 for one reason. The villains. Mm-hmm. They were the only reason that series was good, was the villains in that one. Like, I did not care about any of the main cast because they didn't because they were doing the what? Like, oh, let's go out on a date again. Oh, mirror, or something. I did not care. I did not care what was going on with the new airbenders. I cared about these 3 cool villains who had cool powers, and they had cool, like, they were just really cool, okay?
They say villains are stronger characters than antagonists because the villains actually have goals, whereas protagonists are usually reacting to antagonists. I found that, well, if you're going to have a good story with a good protagonist, they have to have some kind of goal that they're working towards.
Did you, I got a question.
Yeah.
About, I know this is, I hope this isn't like really off topic, but have you read or watched any of the superhero manga?
Superhero manga?
Yeah. Oh, you know, Tiger and Bunny, Rat Man.
I read some of My Hero Academia. A little bit of Hunter x Hunter doesn't really count, does it?
I don't think so. It's more of a tournament.
No, Tiger and Bunny I have heard of. It's on my list.
It's really good. I think that's the bomb. I feel like at times I look at Western and I'm like, why can't they fucking do what they're doing? They just copied you from the 60s. And Tiger and Bunny is what I believe is the boom of superhero manga and anime. Like that, like it's always been around, but that series right there, because they did so much world building, because they're like, all right, superheroes really freaking existed. How are we going to deal with all the explosions? And then they're like, I got it. Advertisements. Funny, like in this world, and it is so good. It's a mixture of Japanese and Western, because they literally made a city that's supposed to be kind of like Gotham and like Metropolis. But also with Japanese elements. So because most of it was for the Japanese audience, so they did stuff like that throughout it. And it's literally that characters, in order to become a superhero, you need a license. You have to go through training, because nobody wants vigilantes, which I think is also a thing in My Hero Academia.
One Punch Man.
One Punch Man, yeah. Also, My Hero Academia does have a spin-off called Vigilantes, which is about those illegal people. They're not allowed on the streets. And in fact, one of them is a Punisher character. Yeah, so that's great. Actually, there's one in Tiger Money as well. But so you need a license, but you also need to have a sponsor, because a sponsor will pay all your damages. And in return, you give them the publicity, because it's like labeled on your suit somewhere who you're sponsored by.
Yeah.
Because they buy your suit and they schedule all the interviews. They're pretty much your agent, but you're also like their big billboard. So there is somebody that is owned by Amazon. The chick, I think her name is Blue Rose, is owned by Pepsi. And they literally were selling in real life Pepsi's cans for that series of Blue Rose. And I was like, this is the best marketing I've ever seen. So yeah, that's the series in a nutshell. And yeah, definitely go watch it. So that's why it kind of inspired people, because they're like, there's so much world building you can do with a superhero series and make it fun. So that's what they did with a lot of them. Ratman is one of my favorites, because it's actually he wants to be a hero, but he's actually accidentally become the villain. Because an evil organization tricked him into using the one of the power devices. Because in this world, you have to go through a training course and you have to be accepted. It's kind of like Tiger and Bunny. You got to be accepted, and then a company will pick you, and then you become their superhero. And then you go out and you protect people kind of thing. But, you know, it's like brought to you by this people, because who else is going to pay for all the damages? So he accidentally gets a device from an evil organization, and it is like really old school. Like all of them are called the Jackies. So they wear like the skull outfits from, what was it? Not Guyver. Maybe it's Jack. The one that looks like a bug motorcyclist. It's that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Okay.
I see him in my head, yeah.
Yeah. So those are the villains, and he's got to run around, and he has to help us. Like, you gotta help us. You're our overlord now. And he's like, I don't even want to be here. So yeah, it's a very fun series.
Well, that's all. I'm sorry.
No. Go on. It's just that so they know how to make it. It's got to be unique. It's got to be different. And that is an issue I think that Western comics are having, where it's like everything's got to be the same. Everything's got to be about me, and it's got to be about how I feel.
Yeah.
And I feel like this, so everybody else has to.
It's, I guess that means that it's our time to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
I see the indie movements that, let's say there's circles of indie creators all over the internet right now, but we're taking big bites, or we have an opportunity to take big bites out of the market. That's been, I guess, there's just a giant vacuum now where there's all these different kinds of books that people want to read. They love it. But, sorry, that's my phone. Can I come right back?
All right.
I'll be right back.
I will spam the people. Yes, I was talking about Common Writer, no doubt. I should have known that. You want to know what's another good series, kids? Powerpuff Girls. I wish that came out when I was like 7. It came out when I was like 12, so that worked anyway. So we would play Powerpuff Girls, you know, as kids. Like, they were super powerful. Do you guys remember? Like, that is a really good superhero series. And actually, I think it's been found out later that more boys watch the series than girls.
Yeah, I used to watch it.
Oh, okay. Hey, sorry.
No, yeah, Powerpuff Girls. I mean, it wasn't especially deep or anything, but yeah. I thought the characters were cute. I thought the stories were fun. The characters were fun.
It was very old school superhero, which helped too. It was like I don't know. I'm sorry. I think we should just kind of go back to old school, where it's like, you beat a bad guy, okay, bye. It's like when you have this ever branching, like, because that's how superhero Western series is supposed to go. If it's a superhero story, it's like, if it's going to continue on, you don't have this epic saga about defeating the super mega bad guy. It's got to be something else. Like Batman, his whole entire thing is, I'm just going to keep saving people from this crime-ridden city. Superman, I'm just going to go and help out anybody that needs it because I got all this power. Spider-Man, I have all this great power, so it comes with great responsibility, and I should just go protect those I love and everybody else. You know, that's what you're supposed to do instead of these everlasting plots of, I have a clone, my mysterious dad has mysteriously returned, and I'm part of some sort of prophecy. No, you're not. Shut up.
I guess one of the key words is fun. Or let's say a person only has a certain amount of time in their week for fun time or relaxing time. So let's say I have 5 hours a week where I'm just going to sit on my couch and either enjoy a comic or a game or an anime or something like that. It's up to the creators, including Marvel and DC or anybody, even a comics gig creator. You have to convince me that your product is worth my time, that it's going to be worth me sitting down to enjoy. I don't appreciate being preached to during my free time, and I'm not going to read your comic and consider it work. So you have to, it's up to you to produce something that's going to be worth my time, something that's going to make me want to even share it with my friends. I don't think Marvel and DC are respecting that at all. All right, so business-wise, one of the questions I want to ask, or I try to ask as much as I can, is aside from the Indiegogo mailing out copies of books to people, that works. I don't know how well it works, but do you think local comic book shops are going to be a part of this future? What do you think is the next few years going to look like?
It's really like unknown at this point, because the thing is, like, a lot of us have discussed about comics in the shops. Like, we've wanted to distribute them into shops, but you know, comic book shops are here's the issue. A lot of them just want to go through Diamond because it's just easier and more convenient instead of going through 500 different websites or whatever. But I feel like that's because they're just so into their old ways. But I love comic book shops, but yeah, you guys are going to have to adapt in order to survive. A lot of them have. The people that don't tend to die off very quickly. We saw what? During the Alonso era, we had over 50 shops close. The next year, I think 20. We're still losing shops, guys. It's still not good. And like one of the biggest ones closed. And it's because of the poor practices, but also I guess Marvel and DC aren't fully to blame. But yeah, they kind of are because they're the support. But anyway, they do have to adapt. And yes, I think it would be easier because Alterna has found out more people just want to order through their website.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to order the comics through their website and get it shipped to them instead of getting them through the stores. I'm one of them because Diamond screws them over every time I order from there. Like I asked for like Tinseltown, never got after issue 2 because Diamond didn't care. I was told by the person that was I was told by the guy that was running the shop that sometimes it's Diamond doesn't give them all the orders because of it being the smaller indies. It's an issue. It's a problem. Jeez. And it's $1 comic, for crying out loud. I should be allowed to get them. So some places, and I've heard this from other places too, it's like we can't because Diamond's going to lose the orders. Mm-hmm. Because but at the same time, it's like we need to have these options. I know a lot of Kickstarters and so forth have, a lot of them on the Indiegogos have put out shop owners tier where they give you like a discount or something like that. Like I think they give a discount and they give you like 5 books.
Yeah.
But you have to like prove it or something like that. And I think that's great. But what we need to do, if we want to do that more often, we have to call up the shops and let them know and give them an email with the link. That is going to be how we have to start this because right now everybody's too afraid. Everybody like we're very, if we really think about it, we're still kind of small. We're huge. Don't get me wrong. We got what we made over 2 million with all the Indiegogos combined, but with still the industry can be bigger. The industry can always be bigger, and we could sell our stuff into shops. And yeah, a lot of us do those tiers, but not everybody knows about it. We're going to have to do the bone route. We're going to have to call them and tell them, hey, I am selling a new comic. It's blowing up on Indiegogo. Just wanted to let you know that there's a tier for shop owners that's on a discount. So if you'd like it, I have it up.
I know in my local areas, there's a few. Well, my plan is after Mary Sue is printed, I'm just going to take it. I'm going to jump in my car and like spend a week going up and down the entire East Coast. And I'm planning to hit every comic shop that'll have an appointment with me. And I'm just going to say, like, here's my book. I'm going to hand it to the guy. Do you want to carry it?
Yeah, let them read it and stuff.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's going to be worth it. I don't know if I'm going to, even break even on it. But I think you could call it saturation, something like that. I feel like there has to be there's something missing between the online shopping aspect and then the casual, just a person that goes to a comic shop. I want them to be able to find my book wherever there's other comics. Like in Japan, you can go into any 7-Eleven, you'll find a Shonen Jump, you'll find every kind of comic or manga under the sun is going to be at every convenience store. But we don't do that here in the States. And I remember Peter Samiti talking about that, and he's trying to change that. And someday I hope I can talk to him.
Oh, yeah. No, dude, do you want to talk to him?
Can you hook it up?
Captain Frugal and I spoke to him not too long ago. I think he's really friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dying to talk to him, actually. I admire him a lot. But I've listened to one of his manifestos on his channel. if anyone isn't subscribed to him, it's Alternate Comics, I think.
Oh my gosh, you have to subscribe.
He's the man, but and he's an artist, but the poor guy is so occupied with the business aspect of publishing, he can't even draw his own book, I don't think.
He's literally, well, also I think he said at one point, I think it was in one of the interviews that Frugal and I did with him, was that he said he prefers writing or something like that. Like, I mean, some people are like that, but yeah, he can draw. And of course, he definitely doesn't have time. That man is going to die being crushed by all the comics he has to do. I am so glad he's booming. I remember chatting with them once on Twitter. I chat with them all the time. This time it was very specific. Was that talking about that the market needs to branch out, because back in the day you could get comics outside of these comic book shops. You could get them at other places like grocery stores and drugstores and stuff. They would have a different cover for the ones at the grocery stores and so forth. The comic shops would get a specific one. And also, comic book shops are for more of the indie stuff, which is good. Kind of like what game shops are, like video game shops.
Yeah.
Or a Walmart. Because it's like, hey, you could go and buy them from Walmart, but you'll probably get the generic stuff. But if you go to this video game store, you'll get the more unique ones, which tend to be for different audiences. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, here in the States, you have to go out of your way to go to a comic shop. Whereas in Japan, it's just, there's comics everywhere you go.
And that's what I want. It sucks. So he was telling, he now sells them at the dollar store. He's trying to sell them everywhere. And he was given an offer to sell them at Target. But this is where he's super smart. He turned it down. I was like, what, really? And he explained, or somebody in the alternate staff explained that you have to pay a certain fee every month for them to ship out all the comics. They go to every single store, mind you. But you have to pay every month, and then you have to take back anything of the backlog or something like that. So, and because he was such a small company, he couldn't risk that at the time.
Yeah.
And though he's booming now, he's also said he's going to wait because on anything big. He doesn't want to do anything big because those sales boomed because of an incident, but he doesn't know how long they're going to last. He's doing really well though. He is growing every time. So he's taken this he's very wise. He is incredibly smart. He is very cautious, which is great. He's going to, and I want to see this in like 20 years is Alterna becoming like a staple.
Well, he certainly has the drive. As a creator, I can say I have a very close eye on him. Yeah. At the moment, I'm not sure if what he does suits what I don't know how many copies I can sell at a time. So, I mean, if I could sell a book for $1.50, I would love to. I want to get it into as many hands as possible. But in order to make a comic full time, you have to make a certain amount of money per month, let's say. I don't know, but it's something I'm definitely keeping an eye on what he's doing. And getting books into stores is one of my goals with this next book. I've never been sure, like my webcomic Problematic. I'm not sure if people want those. We'll see. But I would feel a lot more confident giving them a traditional comic at a store and saying, hey, this is what I have to offer. Do you guys want to stock it? I'm going to have to see what happens. Let's see. I'm just going to look at some questions real quick. Christina Lynn. Oh, she's got to go. But I remember she asked a question above. Let me see.
What do you guys think about the Powerpuff Girl reboot? I already told my statement.
I don't really watch cartoons anymore.
There were two actually reboots of Powerpuff. Well, there's three if you really count mini that they did. There's Powerpuff Girl Z, which was made in Japan, which was awful. We don't talk about that. The mini, we don't talk about that. And the new reboot, we definitely don't talk about that one.
Jeez.
They actually don't do superhero things anymore in the reboot. It's just more of slice of life. And a writer wrote himself in to the story to be the romance of Blossom. It's so bad. I call it Joe Quesada syndrome.
Jeez.
That's what he did. He added his own daughter into Spider-Man to have sex with Spider-Man after he broke off the marriage with Satan. He's actually the one that wrote that. Then added his daughter in to have sex with Spider-Man, which is really creepy because he always says that he pictures himself as Spider-Man. And then he later on managed to get into the animation department where he wrote himself into the new awful Spider-Man series that I think just got canceled because of how bad it is that nobody cares about it. Yeah, he wrote himself in as a mentor to Spider-Man.
And I guess as the big cheese over there, he thinks of himself,
Oh yeah, he actually is, I think, known for starting the "You Don't Fire Friends."
Wow.
He sucked everybody's butt so far that he got all the way up in the ladder, and he made friends along the way, and he said, we'll never get rid of ourselves. We'll never get rid of each other, kind of thing. So he made a circle like that. He's not a good guy, and it has been said that he's thrown people under the bus and took credit for their work. I mean, he kind of wasn't even supposed to be there from day one. It was only because somebody quit at Marvel was how he got his job.
Jeez, the first time I ran across something of his was when I was in college in 2003. Mm-hmm. He was working on a book called NYX, which I remember. The only reason I picked it up was because the art looked amazing.
Yeah.
And then I realized, it's just X-Men, and I stopped reading it. Yeah. I was like, wait, this is a story about people who happen to have powers, but they also have like real life problems. I was like, this is deep. Like there was another series called Demo by Becky Cloonan and I forget the name of the writer. But it was really good, and it was an indie series, black and white. It was about mutants, but it was really more about, real people having real problems, and it just so happens to have little supernatural elements. I thought that was the coolest.
I think that's I think you want to know
Ryan Wood.
Manga does that really well.
Yeah, manga is awesome.
Yeah, manga knows how to write the mutant thing. Like, what was it? Needless? I felt was like, I was trying to explain, I'm like, it's like X-Men with Gurren Lagann. That is literally Needless. Because they all are mutants with superpowers and they're running around screaming for 4 hours. It's great.
Well, it's always about characters first. And I don't want to go on much longer in case we're tired. But the thing that's always on my mind is, how do I reach more readers? And I don't want to alienate anybody with the kind of content I make. So I'm always trying to look for ways to, I don't know. When I see anime and manga doing so well in gaming, and you mentioned how much you like Persona, for instance.
Yeah.
Those kinds of stories are very grounded. They're very character centric. And yes, they have action and all kinds of like little nice messages and social crap and whatever, but they're really about it's like visiting friends. Every time I would boot up Persona 4 Golden, it's like, I'm visiting my friends again.
Yeah.
It was nice. So I don't know. When I see the kinds of books that are being made in the indie circles, I want to make sure that we don't forget about people who, I don't know, maybe they want to read something like a romance story or a comedy.
I would actually just talk to the viewers on Twitter and stuff. I've talked to them before. I think that a lot of people are looking for fantasy. But I think I've had this discussion before, maybe with you or others, is that fantasy, it's really hard to pitch because there's so many different types. That is the difficulty, but everybody wants it.
That's true.
One.
I mean, you could even say that Star Wars is fantasy more than sci-fi.
Oh yeah, no, they call it wizards in space. Some people call it.
That's true. That's true.
Space opera, fantasy in space. I don't always see it as a space opera because operas, I always think soap operas where they're all like, sorry, that's my joke about soap operas.
Melodramatic.
That's what comics have become, and I hate it. But it's space opera. It's deep, it's graceful, but it's also got magic kind of elements. It's space. So yeah, that's
Well, I always saw space as just another place, like instead of, I don't know, you got Tatooine over there. It may as well just be another town that you visit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Naboo is over here. You got to get in a ship to go there. It's space doesn't matter. But the most important thing I think is the characters, and we could talk about Star Wars another time, I guess.
Yeah, we definitely could. We could talk about a lot of we could talk about video games all day and all night, but
I'd love to.
definitely I guess that another way to do it is if you want to appeal to a larger audience, see what I guess are really popular video games. And they don't even need it. Like, here's another thing is Pokemon. Pokemon is incredibly popular. And it's never very plot centric. But there's a reason for it, and it is in the gameplay. So it's the story. I mean, like, so it's parts of that make it interesting. Like, people love the adventures of a kid and his animal companions as he goes on adventures. It's like that's really fun. And the struggles that you make, you know, you will lose, you will fall, but you can get right back up. You'll find things that you've never seen before, and there's always something else to do. So that's why I guess Pokemon's really popular. Legend of Zelda, you know, we got like, that's a really popular series, and it's a fantasy driven, but it's, I mean, maybe this isn't working. Maybe you do have to go through plot driven stories if you want to do references to video games. I don't know.
Well, games and comics are very different, I suppose, mediums. But at the end of the day, a person is able to project themselves into a world. Even if I'm reading a story, the thing that's driving me, like I started reading watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
That's a good one.
The thing that makes me want to see the next episode is, oh, what's going to happen next? Or I'm watching an anime called My Love Story, and it's like, oh, are they going to kiss? Like, what's going to happen next? I need to know what's going to happen next.
I like, I just started, I think everybody knows on Twitter, I've started watching Shinjeki no Soma, Food Wars, and I get really hungry when I watch it. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait for the next part of this. Oh no, they're gonna have to fight that guy. He's really good at cooking, that guy. I'm actually watching with my brother-in-law, and he's so confused. He's like, but how did he get in? Because this is what makes the series, like, the series. I was reading in a manga form first because I was reading on Shonen Jump. That's right, everybody. Go and buy Shonen Jump. It's $2 a month, and you get all the manga. There's my shelf for the day. But second issue has one of the most interesting twists, and me and my brother-in-law are just sitting there. It's like, I did not expect that in the anime, and so it makes you confused. It's like, but wait, how are they going to continue? And they go on. It's like, what? It's really good. Go watch it.
I have to. I guess Shonen Jump, well, that's really been the theme of this episode as far as I'm concerned, is like, how can we be more like Japan? And they're kicking so much butt.
Let's weeb it up. Well, no, we don't want to weeb it up, because I've seen it, like...
No, not in a nerd way. Not in the bad kind of nerd.
Yeah.
Like, you know...
the universe and all that. Like,
no.
Can I just...
Go ahead.
I'm really, like, now I'm just heavily disgusted by how many references we do in American series to anime when our shit is crap. Okay, like Steven Universe, we took scenes from Utena. Nobody cares. It looks ugly. Like, I'm sorry. I was into the series on the first season, and no, not anymore. You guys suck. I don't even care. But it feels like, and then there's like, we put references to Sailor Moon in this series. It's like, I don't care. It looks ugly. The story is awful. You have just spat in the face of this shit. It's poor writing. It's poor writing. It seems more like we're stealing from better shit to hide how bad we are. Make your own unique thing. Make your own unique thing and make it brilliant. That's all the kids want in cartoons. Please, for love of God. And the manga, love manga. Like, read it, but understand why people are attached to that and just bring it to Western comics. But please do not copy word for word a damn manga and just redraw everything, because you'll look like a piece of shit.
Sorry, that was my phone.
Best phone ever. I'm sorry. I
Text. But yeah, I agree with you. Go on.
I don't know.
Create unique stories. References are not like, references just make me want to watch the thing you're referencing.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less about, oh, you like Sailor Moon, great. Steven Universe. I wouldn't even bother.
Yeah.
But we live in a post Scott Pilgrim world, I suppose, and all these Cal Arts people. I've been told about Cal Arts, and I hear.
Yeah, I used to really be very curious. I watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I'm gonna say this: I hated Ramona.
I hate Ramona too.
I wanted him to break up with her. Why are you interested in this woman when she, number one, calls you shit, she hates you, and then suddenly you're dating? It just seems like she's taking advantage of you.
She treated him like crap.
Yeah. Really shitty boyfriends, and I get the whole entire meaning is supposed to be, but you can change. She never changes. She's just always the same person. She doesn't. Yeah. She's using you. But I liked the style. I liked the film itself. I liked the characters. I did like Scott, but so I was very curious about the comic. Never got to read the comic because it was never around, but I did get to read his sequel, this other series he did. Utter crap. But I did like the art style because it was very different. And then everybody started copying. And
which I find interesting because he was so influenced by a series like Ranma and Osamu Tezuka's stuff. So there's this weird, like, they don't know who Tezuka is, the Cal Arts people, but they know who Brian Lee O'Malley is. So they'll copy the most popular comic out there, but they don't know who his influences are.
Yeah, like he literally also really liked some really old school obscure games, so that's what he did. And that's what made Scott Pilgrim's artwork so unique, was that it was, I mean, I think he has reference, like, I think he likes Fooly Cooly because of the way that he flows the arms and stuff.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's Osamu Tezuka is the godfather of manga, so it really does upset me that some people don't know about him. Me and a friend of mine, I have to show you some of her work, you'd be jaw dropped. She got really into Tezuka, so I gave her like a big book of Tezuka, and he's got some really dark shit, guys. He's amazing. Okay, but yeah, like, I love his art style and so forth. Love somebody's work and then find out what they're inspired by and branch out further. Do not copy word for word. Become your own unique thing. God, I hate how they're just hiring, like, all right, I used to be on Tumblr. I used to do a blog. I used to draw art and little comics on there that people liked. But I want to grow. If somebody hired me to make comics that were the comics I wrote on Tumblr, I'd be really sad because they wouldn't tell me what to work on, what to be better at. Mm-hmm. We have to keep growing. And that's the issue. They hire these people and they'll never tell them what to fix. Because, in fact, a lot of them don't want to fix anything.
Yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves as an artist is if a client of mine tells me to draw like somebody else. That's another subject, I suppose.
No, that's a good story. It's like, why don't you
hire the person you're asking me to draw like?
Yeah.
I can't stand that. I have a million things to say about that, but one of the final questions I'll ask for today is, do you think there will, because we talked about Rebecca Sugar, the creator of Steven Universe. I was once at a convention, an indie convention called Small Press Expo over in Baltimore.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, she was there, and they made this whole big thing out of, Rebecca Sugar's here, and all this star power, and it's the biggest indie convention in the country. And I'm like, they wouldn't even acknowledge. That was when Cyberfrog was exploding.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, I didn't have any influence or anything, but I was wondering if I asked anyone, do you know what Cyberfrog is? No one would have known, or they would have suppressed it. It would have been so strange to me to think, but it's like, you can't pretend indie convention at an indie convention that whatever this is that we're doing, CG, indie comics, whatever you want to call it. You talked about, we've raised $2 million recently, or this past year. This is not something that can be ignored. And the reason I bring this up is because if Small Press Expo won't acknowledge half the indie market, do you think there will ever be a time when we do our own version of a convention?
Yeah. Actually, that's what a bunch of us are trying to plan. I actually want to start one, but the only problem is we're going to need to get help. We're going to need people that know conventions, because plenty of people try. We do not want to be the indie version of DashCon. We don't want to be Rainforest. Okay, we want to do we don't want to be Fire Festival. We need to start small, of course, and then grow. My issue is definitely that it seems that all the comic book ones want to be celebrity-fied. That was a really sad thing, was that what was it, like Comic-Con, though it's fun. I've been once. It's very celebrity-fied.
Yeah, pop culture.
Yeah, pop culture is great and everything. I mean, maybe we should just make a pop culture con, but you can't really get into the comics. It's just filled with cosplay and buy my TV series that you're never going to watch, and let's interview fans of comics, but in reality just interview this person that came for a celebrity autograph. Because, I mean, you're not there for the comics anymore, so why even call it Comic-Con?
It's an insult. Like, I've been applying to the New York one for years. I can't get in.
Screw that nonsense.
I can barely get into the indie ones in Baltimore. I don't know if I'm blacklisted or what, but I just can't get in.
People honestly wanted this for a while, though. I know that people outside of our circles, here's the thing. They hate cosplayers. A lot of artists don't like cosplayers. And it's mostly because they will go, because the cons become kind of a cosplayer thing, because a lot of people are under this idea that cosplayers tend to not spend money. They tend to just go to show off their body and then attract everybody to look at them. And the people that they attract to these conventions don't want to buy anything. They just want to dress up and wander around.
Bizarre.
So a lot of artists do not like them. I have discussed about, if I do make an indie comic thing, it would literally just be USA Comic Kit. That's my plan.
Why not?
Make a US Comic Kit. Comic Kit USA. Start it a very small. I live in Texas, so we would. I guess I would do it here and get a bunch of indie creators to just sell their comic. That's it. It's just.
It should, literally just get a few tables in a room, and we'll just hang.
Yeah, just hang.
I would be on a plane tomorrow. I would do it.
Yeah, I guess I should maybe sit down and talk to a bunch of people. I know Benjamin Hennessy is trying to do something like that, but I want to actually sit down with a bunch of people, discuss what to do. Yeah, get some people that are very small, like small indie comic publishers too. Do a whole entire booth for them so people can show off their work and see what they can work on. In fact, make some workshops. Get workshops that are like, get people that are in the indie industry and be like, how to draw, how to write, kind of things, like how you, like, interviews with people. But really, I mean, like, nothing over the top. No celebrity, whatever.
No, simple.
It's just, hey, we're going to do some workshops on how to draw. That's it. Or like workshops on how to write. Mm-hmm. That's it. For those, we don't have you want to screw the interviews. Interviews are terrible. So we're just going to have that, and then we're going to have people selling their books. That's what I want, just like in there. And in fact, we'll have a section on Indiegogo section where it's Kickstarter and Indiegogos that are up right now, and we'll get a big Wi-Fi thing right there, so then they can put out their laptops and let you register right then and there for their comic.
That's
cool. They pitch it face to face.
That's really fun.
I think that would really work. A comic kit is what we need. We need a USA comic kit. That's just, it doesn't only need to be CG. I would like it to be for anybody that wants to start.
I agree with that 1,000%.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of exclusion. Like, a lot of people like to, I don't know, for some reason they use drama as an opportunity to promote themselves. But I think we're stronger just putting down our weapons and agreeing that, like, we're just going to have like a UN meeting. Everyone who's fighting outside, don't bring it in here. We're just going to all promote our stuff together.
I would love that, because honestly, you know what pisses them off even more is when you just smile and you act like the nicest person on the planet. Like, hi there, how are you? This cannot be the villain. It's like, I want a hug. They get so mad when they meet me. It's like, I love everything. I love trees and tacos and little baby sharks. I love it. They hate it.
Well, it sounds like you have a very good position to make this happen, and I guarantee if you announce a thing, I will be there.
I will help you pay for your ticket now.
You know what? How about this as a psycho idea? We do an Indiegogo to pay for people to come and to pay for the convention itself.
I would like to do it in a very small area. When I was a kid, I went to a college, and I mean, I started in a community college because I went to art school for a year and nothing transferred, so I had to start in community college. And what was really cool there was that a small group of girls got together and they decided to make a anime con, and they called it Minicon, and they did it at a library. It blew up.
Why not?
I know, and it was just so shocking. Like, the library loved it because they're like, yeah, and all the kids are coming up to go read the books. Like, they were hoping for that, because then they were like, they had little guides that were like, hey, we got a manga section up above, and people were just registering there. They had actually voice acting special guests there. I don't know how they did it. There was just these two girls, and they're like, and it was a completely free con.
Mm-hmm. I think there's some kind of powerful draw to let's meet in person. People want to meet each other in person. Like, if I go around and sell my books at local shops, I'm willing to go there and sign books. I don't like the idea of signing books, but it doesn't matter. I'll sign if someone asks me, but it's like an ego thing. But like, I just want to go there and meet people.
I want you to sign the book.
Like, I totally understand. I get embarrassed. That's all I mean. Yeah, but like, I want to meet people in person. And I think
I totally get you on that. I don't know, like, if people ask me to sign my book, and I'm like, it's not even that good, guys.
Yeah, I'm too embarrassed. But you know what? It is an honor to be asked. So it's totally okay. But yeah, I think the key to selling books, and also boosting this, I don't like the word community, but whatever. Like, being able to meet your favorite creators and meet each other in person in a central location, like say Texas, everyone can fly there for relatively cheap.
Oh yeah,
and maybe we can split the costs on this giant like mansion. We can rent a mansion to all sleep in or something. Yeah. I don't know. I'm talking out my butt.
Convention center. There's big convention centers. There's little convention center. We got plenty because Dallas tends to be a big hub, and so and of course we had the fan expos. We got a bunch of stuff. So there's several convention centers. But if
please, I beg you, if there's anything I can do, please let me know. I want this to be a thing.
All right, yeah. I want this to be a thing, and you want to know what? You reminded me why. It's needed, and I would love for local creators and creators from all over to be like nothing like, you're not there to pitch a series made by DC or whatever.
No.
Or a series that's already an IP. You're there to pitch your own original concepts. That's what it is. It's nothing but original shit. Original shit. We get everybody to sit down. I don't even care if an enemy wants to come on in, as long as they don't start shit.
Yeah.
As long as they're
leave it outside.
Yeah, you leave it outside or you're banned. You will be blacklisted fast. I would love people that were like XCG to come in. I like people that are CG. I like people that have never wanted to be CG to come on in and just sit there and be like, hi, I would like you to try my book. Let in kids, let in parents, make it somehow, if I can, affordably cheap.
I like that idea. And you know there will be security because it's Texas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No one's gonna start shit.
And yeah, I stand no cosplay, please, for the love of God. At the art. We're gonna. You want to know what? Also, cosplay is dangerous because you could hide weapons.
I see.
No cosplay. No cosplay. I have cosplay friends. Okay, guys, just this one con. I'm just asking, please, just for the artists, because if we start putting in the like cosplayers, you're awesome. I love your art. Oh my God, I don't know how some of you dress up as Genova. I am drooling over here, but this has to be about these guys, and please don't take it seriously. Please don't be offended.
Well, I'm convinced, and everyone here, I'm sure, is interested. Okay. I think whatever needs to be done to get the ball rolling on this, we need to go for it. So I'm in. Let me know.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely.
All right, good.
I want to try and get the name Comic Kit USA. Watch somebody steal it.
Doesn't matter. We'll call it something else.
Yeah, we'll call it something else. But right now, the working title is Comic Kit USA, and it'll be in Dallas. We're gonna get everybody together. I'm gonna try and pitch this idea. Honestly, maybe that's what I want to do. Holy shit, I do want to do this. This is what I really want to do. I wouldn't mind just running the rest of my life, like, helping other people like this. That's what I want. I want to market people's work. And my God, this would be perfect.
Wow. We're here. We're all listening at the birth of a.
Oh my God, this would help so many people. Like, I love Hero, and it didn't get enough funding last time because people didn't know about it. There's a lot of indie creators that I just found about last minute. I couldn't do it. Oh my gosh, this would be perfect. Just like
All right.
section.
Well, in that case, let's all nominate Nerd on Twitter, whatever. Everyone listening, tell everybody Nerd is the one who's going to put this together. She volunteered.
Good.
Okay. All right. You've got my full support. Whatever you need, you let me know.
All right. I need to go, and what I do need is if you guys know anybody that's worked in conventions before, knows how to run a convention, please let me know that I can talk to them. If you've run a convention before, please contact me, because I need the experience. I need experienced people, because you can't do it alone. You can't do a convention alone. Even a small one, even if it's dinky, we need at least 3 people that know what the F they're doing. Because I refuse to make this DashCon. No. We will not have a ball pit.
DashCon was a failure because of so many different factors. All you need, really, find a VFW hall or something, rent it out, get a few tables and some chairs. That's all we need, honestly. It doesn't have to be big the first time. Just a room with cool people in it. It
honestly, that's all I want, is just a room with cool people in it.
The next one, you can do something bigger. I say start small. That's all you have to do.
You're right. And just maybe do GoFundMe or something like that. Or something. Yeah. Like, we don't need a goal. I literally don't need a goal. All I just need is like enough money to fix the renting room, and maybe tickets will just be enough. But honestly, I am I'm a working class girl, so I don't have to fund it.
You get volunteers. I could even come a few days early to help set up tables. I'm sure other people will do that too. It can be our thing. We all hands on deck.
Yeah, we can just all get together. I would love to do maybe an event afterwards where we all just get around and we just eat food at like maybe a Denny's or something. It doesn't need to be big.
Works for me. I've always wanted to visit Texas. This is the perfect excuse.
Oh yeah, I guess then we'd have to go to Whataburger, because
let's do it.
What everybody says, and Buc-ee's. Apparently that's what happened to John Malin when he first went to Texas. That's how we met, and that's how I did Graveyard Shift. The Bite Size series.
Cool.
We met at a con that was very like highly respected the CGers. So yeah. Well
then, maybe this will be a special day in comics history. The day when Nerd decided to pull the trigger on this one.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
Let's do it. Honestly, everyone on Twitter, we know how to find Nerd Wonder. I'm sure you came here through Twitter, but you guys, she's at Nerd Wonder, right?
Yeah, your Nerd Wonder at Twitter. I got a YouTube channel I don't really use, so okay. I swear I'll get back to it. I've started doing Let's Play with a bunch of CGers and non-CGers, so yeah.
Wow. Let's give her our full support on Twitter. Anytime you want us to promote this, I'm sure lots of us will retweet and even throw a few bucks at it. We'll make this happen.
I just gotta find out what's the best days for you guys, because we gotta find a good time.
Let's do it. I'm doing this full time, so let's see. If Mary Sue is coming out maybe this fall, I can even speed it up so that it'll come out if you want to do it sooner than that. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, I think the fall would be a good time, and then maybe next year we'll do one in the summer.
Okay. Well, in any case, I'm going to have stuff to sell. I'm going to bring stuff. I want to be there. So,
yeah. No,
all right. You have the first person that's confirmed to be there.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for everybody for listening. This has gone over 2 hours. This is a crazy length for me, but I had a great time there. Thanks for coming.
I'm so sorry.
We had so much fun. Honestly, this will be a thing. I swear. So everyone listening, let's support Nerd in this quest. Let's make it happen. I see Matt C in the chat. I'm going to be talking to him next week, I think. It's just, cool. Yeah, it's just been weeks. My whole schedule now is packed with interviews. I'm so excited. But anyway, yeah, just feel free to keep listening to this channel. I'm at gprime85 if you don't know. And yeah, come back next time. We'll have more great conversations. Nerd, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And thanks for everyone for listening. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Yep.